it's Sunday night or Monday night, and you know what that means. Ringside is on the air here on News Talk Sauga at 9:60 a.m. and of course in video form on YouTube. I am your special guest host, Jose Taboada. You can find me on social media at Taboada93. Stepping in for the great Lex Tan, as Lex is feeling under the weather. And so who of the Ringside crew stepped up and said, "Hey, I'll host." Me. So I am ready to get this going for episode 139. It is a 3-man wrecking crew here tonight. I am joined by our resident charity streamer, and you can find him on social media at Risen72, Mr. Colin Dodge, and our theme music composer of Ringside Heat, who you can find at John Dawson Music, Mr. John Dawson. Gentlemen, good evening, hello, good morning, whatever the kids say these days. How are you doing?
Okay.
That's the spirit.
Are kids not supposed to say good morning? I don't understand. Or they
What
do
did I
say
say?
good morning? You say good evening or good morning, whatever the kids say these days.
Yeah, I realized that.
I didn't know that anything had usurped that particular greeting.
You would know better than us, Jose, so you're going to have to let us know. Yeah. What do the kids say?
I don't know what I said, gentlemen. I don't know what I said. But another fun week of wrestling that's come and gone.
Yeah, let's hope the kids still say good morning. I think that's just polite.
Absolutely.
Good morning or good evening or good night.
I think it's
whatever they say. I hope they're listening, ready to talk wrestling with us. And what a fun, eventful week wrestling. First things first, I do want to quote unquote acknowledge another fun, successful live stream from Colin and Lex this past Sunday for AEW Double or Nothing. We will get into Double or Nothing later on in the show, but
dropped off at the end, but we'll get into that later. Yeah.
Wait, what?
It dropped off at the end, not the stream, the pay-per-view.
Oh,
we'll get to that later.
I will admit that I had such a busy week, and then unfortunately I wasn't able to tune into the live stream. But I know that these guys killed it as they usually do. Our next one, I presume for now on paper, temporarily in pencil, is Clash at the Castle on Saturday, June 15th. We will see if that is to happen, but for now, that's what's up next on the live stream schedule as we continue to go with these live broadcasts. And I know that we're having fun, so our first WWE live stream, I presume, would be pretty fun with how that card is stacking up. But for now, let's get into what was going on in the week of wrestling. And first, we want to dive into NXT. What a week in NXT in which everybody thought it was going to be a regular fun show. Instead, you have Jordynne Grace, TNA's knockout champion, Jordynne Grace, coming out of nowhere, who now challenges Roxanne Perez at NXT Battleground for the NXT Women's Championship, and also has a tune-up match coming up this week. And then to close out NXT this past Tuesday, Ethan Page, a free agent Ethan Page, now jumping ship to WWE, attacking NXT champion Trick Williams at the end of it all. And what looks like now, one, the exciting debut of Ethan Page. Two, it looks like we're going to be seeing a lot more of TNA with WWE, and I think a lot of fans are not going to be opposed to that. So, gentlemen, I open up the floor to you guys. Your thoughts on the surprises, but more importantly, I think the discussion is, what could we potentially see with TNA in this potential collaboration with WWE?
I don't know.
The return of Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, maybe.
But he's awesome, so that's a good thing.
That's not the worst option. There's a lot of good options out there.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan. This is huge. I'm such a fan. I mean, this is the quote unquote forbidden door that everybody wanted. Jordynne Grace even has a shirt now that says Forbidden Portal, which brilliant. Just well done. But I like this. This is the content that fans thrive for, and I think NXT is the perfect playing ground for TNA instead of the main roster.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm gonna miss Ethan Page on AEW, but he was not being used, and I still think that's a crime of the century. So I'm glad he's found a place that looks like is going to use him and let him do his thing. So I am absolutely happy for it. I'm happy for him. So
I think both of these moves are a really strong step towards NXT establishing itself. And I feel like they've been moving away from this for a while, but they're not the developmental brand. They're a third brand.
Yeah.
You know, they're a third brand. And this kind of thing is really good for that. Don't make this about them eventually getting up to the main roster. No. Ethan Page could probably do just beautiful work in NXT for as long as he wants to.
Yep.
The bounce back and forth between NXT and TNA, this is all great stuff because again, it keeps the pressure off having to even think about the main roster. You can have this beautiful kind of free exchange. I think it's exactly what should be happening, in my opinion.
I think as well, the NXT roster is a perfect size for TNA.
Yes.
TNA is not, is also like, I don't think it have like an overly drastically big roster as well. And I think that they could easily get lost in the shuffle with how big Raw and SmackDown are and how big those rosters on their own are. Because obviously with the main roster, you can't just stick with one show. You can't stick with Raw. You have to include SmackDown and vice versa. It's just, you have to include both of them in there. So I think NXT, while yes, it's become its third brand, but I think also I would still label it as a developmental brand because I think again, we don't know what this partnership could be, if there even is one. But if there is, I think a lot of the NXT talent who are growing up in that system, as opposed to coming from the outside and going into NXT, I think this is a great ground for them to really work with some other well-known talent outside of the company. So it's a good spot. NXT was definitely the right spot.
Well, yeah, at NXT, NXT can be a developmental brand. I think one of the mistakes that have been made is that it's been an either or. Is it a third brand or is it developmental? Well, it's both, right? Like it can be. If you want to pull them up from there, fine, but it can exist just fine on its own. And you're right. The problem with something like TNA getting pulled up into main roster is they get dwarfed very easily. It just the reality is it's just not as big a machine as that, WWE proper is. And NXT is they're at eye level there, I think. And it's good for both of them, to continue this. It's really good. Ethan Page obviously is another story because he's a free agent. I'm very curious. I've always been a fan of you. I love it when you go action figure hunting with Danhausen. Like those, I watched a lot of those videos. The guy made me laugh. So, and Hamilton Boy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I actually didn't know that. Oh, yeah. There we go.
So
you want success, get Canadians. I say it all the time.
Sure.
It's very, very true.
Canadians and Samoans. They won the wrestling world.
Yeah. No kidding.
Ringside Heat on Newstalk Sauga 960 AM. I'm here with Colin Dodge, John Dawson, and Jose Taboada here as host for the night, talking about the surprises that NXT gave to everybody with the arrivals of Jordan Grace and Ethan Page. And Colin, I want to turn to you here really quickly because what you said that Ethan Page didn't have the best of exposure in AEW. What do you think would work this time around in NXT as opposed to AEW?
Well, I mean, what happened with AEW, it was strong at the beginning because they didn't yet have the, how to describe it, the juggernaut talent that will always take up a sizable portion of the show. Because it was kind of, everybody was an even playing field in the beginning. And especially during the lockdown, mid-carders, I guess you could say, not meaning that in a derogatory way at all, such as Ethan Page at the time, they were getting large chunks of the show then when they were doing the empty arena shows, and the only people in the crowd were just the other locker room members, right? Yeah. The other performers. And he was absolutely fantastic. And when they kind of did I can't remember the name of the actual training group now, but they kind of did an invasion of one of the UFC training groups for a little bit, and he was part of that, and he's great. Absolute fantastic heel in AEW, but it steadily kind of dropped off, I think, as everything got busier, and he just seemed to kind of get pushed to the side, where I think he was one of the homegrown talent that should have continued to been developed. So I'm hoping, I think now with the way you guys have been describing NXT, he's going to have that room to be developed and be able to show if he can actually hang in with WWE. I personally think he can from what I saw in AEW, but of course, WWE is a whole other animal, as they should be. I mean, every promotion should be its own kind of animal, never be a carbon copy of another promotion. So I think he'll do really well. And I think with NXT, he'll probably get the room to prove that. or not prove it.
Do you think it's the right call that he got? And John, this question for you as well. Do you guys think that it was the right call to immediately jump him into the NXT title picture? Because that's a pretty big debut. That's a pretty big statement right off the bat. You're coming in from another company, a very well-known company, to which Vic Joseph almost blurted out on commentary, which was hilarious as he got interrupted by Booker T.
Yeah.
Do you think
that was funny?
You think that it's a smart move, given that he's from the quote-unquote opposition, to get put in such a high picture in NXT?
Yes, for the simple fact that, again, you go that dual identity of NXT and the fact that in many ways, it still function as a developmental. A guy like Ethan Page has already proven himself, right? Like you don't need to put him at the back of the line in a developmental, at least, even half developmental / third brand. I think that guy has already proven what he can do. And I think it didn't feel inappropriate to me. Him coming up to SmackDown and taking out Cody would have felt inappropriate. But Trick Williams, I'm like, no, I think Ethan Page probably can teach Trick a trick or two. So it didn't. Yeah, no, it didn't feel wrong. I think that was good intuition. There's no reason to put Ethan Page at the back of the line in NXT. All due respect to NXT, I don't think there was any reason to do that.
Colin?
I immediately think back to when AJ Styles debuted at the Rumble. At the Rumble, yeah. And I remember a big thing. I think we might have talked about it just on our own group chat, but I think the big thing around the internet is like, oh, he didn't go through NXT first.
Yeah.
And the other half is like, he's AJ Styles. He doesn't need to go through NXT.
I was one of those people that said he doesn't need NXT. It just made sense. The big reign as the IWGP champion in Japan and the Bullet Club and everything, how well he established himself as that top star.
Yeah.
Putting him in the Rumble that was for the title made so much sense to me.
Yeah. He was known enough that he didn't have to. He didn't need NXT at the time for everybody to learn about him. We knew who AJ Styles was, but coming, and again, I can go into it later when I cover the AEW part, with Mercedes Moné debuting and walking right into a title match. And where I kind of feel like it's interesting. I have where the part-timers coming into WWE and getting all the title shots. I've always had a problem with that. That's well documented, no matter who the part-timer is. And I have that same feeling when established star, not just a former WWE star, but another established star from somewhere else coming in, taking a title from a homegrown AEW talent, right? As much as I wasn't absolutely following Willow, I mean, she had that title for the length of a sneeze, and then here comes Mercedes. Just walks right in. That's her title now, right? So, and maybe if Mercedes' debut was better, I don't know. So I think maybe Mercedes should not have walked right into a huge title, but I think it works with Ethan, again, knowing what I liked from his time in AEW. A guy like that, if he's doing the heel-ish type of stuff he was doing in AEW, then put him going after a title. You need him chasing a title and berating somebody who has a title. So,
but you don't need him to go over yet.
No, not yet. No,
probably not.
He shouldn't win yet.
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference. It's like,
Be
sure,
in the conversation,
come after Trick, be in the conversation, and then lose, and then go to work.
Yeah.
I think it was nicely handled.
As long as he doesn't go to work for the length of a sneeze. God, well done, Colin.
That's what it felt like.
That is the.
I was just getting used to her being champion. They finally the contract signing. I was finally interested in the match, and then it's done. And then her friend turned on her on Dynamite, and at the end of that match, and it's all over. But anyway.
Friends, if you're listening to us on live radio or wherever you get your podcast, thank you. But if you go over to the YouTube, you'll see that I'm trying to not burst out laughing once Colin said that, and that is the perfect line to go into the commercial break. When we come back, we're going to follow up on that AEW discussion and review Double or Nothing from Las Vegas this past weekend. And then later on in the show, AJ Styles retiring. I want to know what that's all about. All this and more when we come back on Ringside Heat here on Newstalk Sauga 960. Here's Matt Riddle.
This is Matt Riddle, and you're listening to Ringside Heat.
And welcome back to Ringside Heat here on Newstalk Sauga 960 AM. I am your special guest host, Jose Taboada, and I am going to say something that I completely forgot to do in my introduction at the start of the show. You can find Ringside Heat on social media at ringside_heat, and we are available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we upload our weekly episodes on YouTube. I did not say that at all to open up the show, but I said it now. So my pass as a host is still valid. Colin Dodge, John Dawson joining me here tonight for episode 139. Gentlemen, I promoted the Ringside Heat socials to start the show, right? Right?
No.
That's what I remember.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Exactly.
You actually stopped Colin from talking about AEW. You said, wait, let's put that on the back burner so I can talk about this.
I was a little put off, but I understood. Yeah.
Once again, Ringside_Heat. We're across all social media platforms and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now that that's been said and out of the way, let's pick it right back up where we left off at the end of the break. Well, before the commercial break, I should say. We were talking about a little bit of AEW, so now is a perfect transition to go into AEW Double or Nothing 2024. Colin, our AEW expert and apologist, will kick us off. Colin, break that card.
I apologize for so little. What are you talking about?
Colin, break that card down for us. What did you think of the event this past
Now I am
Sunday?
clutching my pearls. That was terrible.
Monocles are falling out everywhere.
Oh, if I had a top hat, it'd be in my ceiling right now.
You're all weak. Colin,
Collars.
lead us off.
My collar is popped.
Bow ties spinning.
Oh, man. If it was a cane, I'd be on the floor.
Yeah.
Lead us off, Colin. What do you think about Double or Nothing?
I don't know. I don't think it's going to top the reaction I just had, but it was a very solid pay-per-view. And it needed to be for being the beginning of the 5th anniversary of shows. So, yeah, okay. I mean, the opening matches were the opening matches in the pre-show. They're fine. They were great. Didn't matter. So the show opened really strong with Will Ospreay and Roderick Strong. Now, talk about unappreciated. Roderick Strong is carrying the faction that he's in, and if you've forgotten what that faction is, you're not alone. But it's the Undisputed Kingdom, where the tag champions are never on AEW unless they're supporting Roderick Strong. Wardlow, yes, he is part of that faction. I think he forgets sometime as well. And Adam number 2, Adam Cole, is streaming video games, so he shows up every now and again, but not that much.
He's still hurt, right? He is still
hurt. I'm picking on him, but yeah, he's still legit hurt. He can't come back yet. But I'm kind of a jerk. So they open with Will Ospreay and Roderick Strong. Fantastic match. I don't know. I still haven't looked it up, so bad on my part. But you would think Roderick Strong and Will Ospreay have wrestled many times before. It is a very good match. If you didn't watch it, encourage you to go watch it. Very good match. For the International Championship, and Will Ospreay wins. So Roderick Strong does not have his belt anymore, and that's kind of upsetting because he's the kind of heel that needs a belt to scream about. So I'm not sure what they're going to do with him. But I hope he comes back in some way, because like I say, Undisputed Kingdom, unless you're watching Ring of Honor, you don't know they exist, really. The next match was the Bang Bang Gang. Juice Robinson's back. Yay. But the more important thing is Death Triangle is back. The Lucha Brothers are back. All 3 of them are healthy at the same time. And that's always a magic time in wrestling when it's the same person, where Pac, Penta, and Rey Fenix are all healthy at the same time. I'm fine. It's been a long week. Now, the next match, which is also very good, was Timeless Tony Storm defending her title against Serena Deeb. Fantastic mat wrestling type of technical match. And despite the insane, incredibly well done gimmick, you might have forgotten Toni Storm can actually wrestle. And did she ever with this match with Serena Deeb? So another very good match, and also filled with insanity, 1940s Hollywood that only Toni Storm can bring to a match. Another very good thing to watch. And then, of course, Orange Cassidy defeated Trent Beretta just barely by pinfall. Orange Cassidy being scouted by Don Callis. Will everybody's favorite Orange Cassidy go heel? He's really upset. It's the crankiest and saddest we've ever seen Orange Cassidy, so it's still a possibility, but the jury's still out.
Did not think that character would ever turn heel, but that's intriguing.
I don't know. I worry it'll be kind of like when Stone Cold went heel, where it kind of worked for a week and then it didn't work. Yeah, I don't know. But that's the thing, because he's so loved no matter what he does, right? And not that he's ever done super heelish kind of things. So I don't know.
Hey, man,
that's interesting.
People like redevelop and rebrand and try to get that career going. So if that's a route for Cassidy,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think he would need something like that, but I've also seen even really other big popular stars just completely turn the tide and then boom, it worked out for them. So it's not the craziest idea.
Yeah. Now, Johnny, this next part, I am going to have to encourage you to watch this, and it just fast forward to this part. Chris Jericho has done it again, rebranding himself as the Learning Tree. His new segment that he debuted on Dynamite this week was called TV Time with Chris Jericho. Because who wants TV time more than Chris Jericho?
Yeah.
So of course
brilliant,
he's there.
by the way.
He's calling his fans his branches.
Yeah, that's good.
His branches.
His branches.
That's good.
Okay.
So he is the Learning Tree. Big Bill is Redwood.
Oh, okay.
Big Bill is now Redwood. And their newest member, Bounty Hunter, I want to say David Keith, but I think that might be an actor. Sorry. He's the Bounty Hunter anyway. He's now the Bad Apple. He's joined the faction.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because the Bad Apple doesn't fall too far from the Learning Tree.
Right. I see where he's going with that.
Yes.
Yes.
It is absolutely fantastic. They kind of sound like self-help gurus.
Of course.
They're not really registering that they're being booed out of the building.
Okay.
He is the longest reigning champion of For the World Championship.
Mhm.
He's renamed it, to which Taz is very upset on the announcer table every week, which is a lot of fun. He's rebranded the belt that's not his. He's had it for 39 days. The best part, though, on Dynamite, not even the match that happened on the pay-per-view, was that Samoa Joe has returned and apparently is going to be helping Hook to take out the Learning Tree in the new faction.
Just chop down the Learning Tree, as it were.
To chop down the Learning Tree. But if Hook can learn stuff from Samoa Joe, then Hook could be a force to be reckoned with one day in the future. But right now, not anytime soon. But Samoa Joe's back on TV, so I'm good.
Okay, this is good. I mean, look, I'm always going to be a Jericho fan.
Yeah. This I had to spoil it a bit, but to tell you, but it's Jericho at his most like cringiest kind of.
Nobody does it better.
He won't stop smiling. I think he got new veneers and everything. Maybe not as bad as DDP's, but his teeth look new.
Oh yeah, DDP's like Guy Smiley, man. Yeah,
yeah, like he was his own flashlight. Yeah, you can still see him when Undertaker was coming to the ring.
Yeah,
for context,
the original Firefly.
One of my group chats was really like down on Jericho. There's like kind of saying like he probably should retire, this and that. This Learning Tree gimmick came up, and all of a sudden everybody flipped on Jericho again. Which, I gotta say, it's just the man. Love him or hate him, like it's insane how this guy can just continue to just spit out rebrands and gimmicks, and it sells. I don't get it.
His new T-shirt even looks good. I think I might want to get it.
It's like again, like it's one of those things where you just tip your cap and say, like, just when fans are ready to turn on you, not for like storyline purposes, but for like, like
just fatigue,
shoot purposes, and wishing that you would retire, and all of a sudden again it's like, oh well, no, yeah, we like this, keep going. Nobody does.
I'll be your branch, sure.
Nobody does.
That's fine.
The great thing about Jericho is he's one of a kind. He's in a category all his own in this, because you look at somebody like, the closest parallel I would think would be Taker, but Taker always rebranded within a particular kind of matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, like Jericho has been full sail, like just we're changing the entire script here,
and this is like his third or fourth thing just in AEW, right?
Yeah.
So
it's insane. It's impressive. It's just impressive. Of course, Ringside on Sauga at 6 a.m. Jose Taboada, guest host, stepping in for Lex Tan, alongside Colin Dodge and John Dawson. We're talking about this past Sunday's AEW Double or Nothing out of Las Vegas, Nevada. We're just quickly just talking about how Jericho is potentially a god at this rate in wrestling, and how he just reinvents himself left and right. But Colin, there's definitely more on the card to discuss.
One last thing about Jericho.
Oh, please.
When the book is closed on this guy, you're going to have an absolute masterclass in character evolution. You know what I mean? Like, this is unbelievable what he's done. So I'm very happy to hear that. You
have a museum. You can have a museum dedicated. I know this is. I don't.
And if anybody's going to do it for himself, that will be Jericho.
Because
he'll open his own museum. Yeah.
You got the Lionheart era, the break the walls down era, the code breaker, the list, the best, the whatever. It's try naming all the gimmicks, to be honest, but it's impressive.
Hard.
It's hard, but it's impressive.
Most people would have stopped at the man of 1,001 holds. So it was 1,001, 1,004, or whatever it was.
To come back from commercial break, and he's still doing it.
And he's still on. And then he kept coming back to armbar. That was
armbar was there like 18 times.
Oh God, that's gold.
And it's all just roasting Dean Malenko, and it's just beautiful.
Like that alone.
Like who roasts Dean Malenko? Nobody would think to do that, but no, Jericho did it.
Like John said, when the dust is settled on Jericho's career, which to be fair, I think it was thought of at least twice in the last year.
Yeah,
he's 34 years in, is what he's been saying. So yeah,
it's like when the dust is settled, it is a career that is worth studying and worth picking apart and digging into for future development of future talent, because I think he is, again, like, you could have a textbook of Jericho and how he managed to work around gimmicks, to reinvent what goes through his mind, what can he do, it's just like to be in that mindset. That's worth an interview on its own, really. What's the thought process for a gimmick, and where does the thought go as you develop and dig more into it? It's just brilliant. We do need to keep talking about Double or Nothing, but I think a well-deserved pause from the pay-per-view. A well-deserved pause to talk about Jericho's career, because it'll go down as one of the best of all time. Colin?
Next up, a very good match. Not a lot to say. Jon Moxley defends his IWGP World Championship against Takeshita. Solid match. Then, of course, we come to Adam number 1, and forgetting that he's 50 years old, decides to do. It looked like it was going to be a frog splash from the top of the cage, which would have been bad for everybody involved. So instead, he did an elbow drop, but he kind of stayed standing. And if on the live stream reaction, I was marveling at that his knees didn't explode when he landed, because it didn't look good. So I'm not surprised he broke his leg, his tibia, to be detailed about it. And so the TNT Championship is now up for grabs. The Elite was going to give it to everybody's favorite scapegoat, Jack Perry, son of everybody's favorite Luke Perry. Krusty the Clown's half brother.
Yeah, I was just gonna say great step nephew of Krusty the Clown.
Step nephew of Krusty the Clown.
Yeah.
owes him $5.
Or no, half nephew. Sorry, half nephew.
Half nephew. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The Krusty the Clown lineage is very detailed and sporadic. But yeah, so then of course now there's going to be a tournament for the TNT Championship. Christopher Daniels stepped in saying, "I'm the general manager now," because Kenny Omega, I think, forgot he was general manager, so he's going to be Tony Khan's mouthpiece. So anyway, the Elite didn't get their way, and there's going to be a tournament for that, I think, culminating at Forbidden Door on June 30th. So that's what's happening with the TNT title, even though Adam Copeland did retain. What's going to happen with the House of Black, I don't know yet. Following that, we had Mercedes Moné defeating Willow Nightingale. Like I say, she sneezed and her reign was over. And just make him pop. And it was one of the better contract signings. It actually made you get into this match that was going to happen. I felt like a flat lead up to me, but Mercedes champ, and she's already got a bunch of people coming after her on Dynamite, so hopefully it gets more interesting. Swerve Strickland versus Christian. Christian, fantastic heel work, shenanigans all over the place with the rest of the Patriarch family. With Nick Wayne and Mother Wayne and Lucha Killswitch. And it was a lot of fun. It was a great match. Swerved, defended, of course. He's still the champ. And with what happened on Dynamite, it will be Swerve versus Will Ospreay. I don't know if it's champion versus champion, but Ospreay is international champion, but they will be fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship on June 30th at Forbidden Door. So that's going to be a very good match. And then to end the night, I got into a big discussion with Lex about match placement and booking the whole show. I said the Anarchy in the Arena match should be first to get it over with because I wasn't interested in it, especially when Eddie Kingston wasn't going to be in it any longer. And they really should have put in Claudio instead of Darby. But it was an insane match. Jack Perry got lit on fire. I just kept flashing back to Inferno matches.
I haven't seen it, but was it safe?
He was absolutely covered. Where in the Inferno match, it was just Kane's arm that was covered. Yeah. All of a sudden, he came out looking slicker than John Cena did as the prototype. And he was just dripping. You thought he got slimed like they were filming Ghostbusters. And I'm like, he's getting set on fire. That's exactly what's going to happen. And so they set his legs on fire. He was on fire for like maybe 5 seconds. And then the Young Bucks were right there with extinguishers and stuff. And so.
All right. Well, I guess
it was a spot. It was the fire spot. I guess they had to pay off Darby having a flamethrower. So.
Of course.
Yeah, because why not? But anyway, the Elite still won, even after all that. So, as far as I can tell, there wasn't any major injury. The only real injury was Adam number one.
Well, a couple of things I want to follow up. Number one, I realized that, and I think, Colin, you were saying this in our group chat, that Swerve Strickland is not being presented as a proper champion.
I'm hoping it will change now that I think this Elite stuff is over. I think the Elite will now kind of take more of a little bit of a back seat because it looks like it's really the Young Bucks versus Christopher Daniels right now as they make decisions for the show. You know?
Well, I say that because you just spoke about match placement. I think you would have wanted the World Championship, especially if a lot of people are starting to complain about Strickland's booking. I know even Jimmy Corderas, a friend of the show, was saying, "Hey, he's not being presented as a champion." I think that's a perfect example of match placement. What needed to go last. I think that's a no-brainer. 2, that Copeland spot, I don't get it.
It didn't need to happen. I mean, Gangrel came back in that match.
Cool.
He came out with the Brood music. Like, all that stuff was working. A giant spot didn't need to happen. Just the brutality of that match that him and Malachi were already pulling off. And even with Buddy and Brody King trying to interfere and all that kind of stuff, like, all of that was fine and working. The big, insane spot didn't need to happen. It was like Shane diving off for Taker on their most recent match at
WrestleMania 32.
It didn't need to.
Like I said, I know I'm Ringside Heat's biggest Copeland fan, Edge fan.
Mhm. Yep.
But I also feel like, is it really necessary to do it just for the sake of doing it because you're in a different company that you felt like you should have done it just to get off the bucket list? Do you know what I mean? Is it?
I almost think he did it because they let him do it, and I don't think, at the time Vince or maybe now Triple H would have let him take that spot, or at least they maybe would have tried to talk him out of it or something like that, because you're 50 and it's not the top belt of the company that you're defending.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and yes, he's done spots like that in WWE. We can never forget the infamous WrestleMania 17 spear and the way that his knees landed on that, which a lot of people I think forget that, like, his knees landed pretty rough on the canvas, obviously to get Jeff, but he was kneeled down. And again, that I think that right there is an example of how you can be safe from such a high distance. Because I mean, I think that ladder spot at WrestleMania 17 is close to it.
But also don't forget his hardcore match with Mick Foley. That took a lot out of him. There weren't giant spots like that ladder match.
Was that the flaming table?
It was
the flaming table ended that one. Yeah,
Mania 22. Yeah. So it's again, like, it's just I have to presume that, I think for me, that if you were gonna do it, if you're already taking such a risk, you have to match the risk on the floor. I think you should just land it straight up in a frog splash and just eat the barbed wire. You kind of have no choice because I think, ironically, I think that would that not be the safer jump?
I mean, honestly, what it would have made even more sense story-wise is that he took out Spike, that thing he used on Christian to win the TNT belt. That giant barbed wire spiked bat that he made for that match. He should have just taken that back out and won the match.
So wait a minute, I didn't see it. He came off the top of the cage. Where was the barbed wire?
The barbed wire.
Oh no, there was no barbed wire. It was just
barbed wire on Malachi Black when he was lying down on the table. Was he not?
That's right. Yes, that's right. He wrapped him in barbed wire and then just put him on a table.
So that's what I'm saying. I feel like would it not have been safer, whether the barbed wire is gimmicked or not, to just eat it for the sake of your safety? Because again, it cost him 4 to 6 months. I think
the reason was that from that height, I think a frog splash would have been too much risk on Malachi taking it. I think it would have been too high, because I think they said the cage was 16 feet. And because they said 16 and didn't round up, I think it actually is 16 feet. You know what I mean? And with him standing. So I think if he just did a straight flat frog splash, I think even without the barbed wire there, I think that would have been too much of
but he's going for a frog splash.
I thought he was.
Thought he was. And he twists into an elbow and comes down.
So he just he just comes down standing, like his feet are still under him. And so that's where I thought, because he kind of landed on Malachi with his elbow, but
Malachi was on the table.
Malachi's on the table. And I think the elbow hitting the table and his feet hitting the mat was pretty equal. That's why first thing I said was, how did his knees not explode?
It was a very vertical landing. Like he's practically standing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there even a safe version of that spot?
That's what I'm saying. Somebody has to sacrifice something else. Yeah. And I in my opinion,
so he takes the hit or Malachi takes the hit. That means don't do the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
and that's the point, and that's my point. Yeah. And that's my point that I said earlier. It's like, it's great that you have the creative freedom that you wanted to do in WWE, that you felt like you couldn't hit because your freedom, your creative freedom was maxed out basically in WWE, which is okay. Again, it's he's there in AEW. Okay, great. That's not that. It's just, is it worth it? I don't even know about the age. Like, is it worth it to do the risk and the stunts that you want to do for the sake of doing them? Just because, I don't even
see it as creative freedom. It's safety freedom.
Safety freedom,
why are they safe from freedom?
Creative was the first word that came up in my mind. John.
Yeah.
But clearly this was a bad idea because it didn't work and he broke his leg.
Yeah, your champ is now,
you know what I mean? Like
on the shelf, and you have to redo the show. Yeah,
this was just a bad idea. Obviously, if it was a good idea, it would have probably had a better. If anybody could have pulled that off,
Yeah.
I'm not even sure Adam Copeland would have. I don't know. Anybody would have pulled that. So I'm saying, like, the spot sounds ludicrous to me.
Yeah. The only one I could say would be maybe Darby, because he can't seem to die no matter how hard he seems to try sometimes. So
Yeah, I think Darby would have been if Darby was willing to go through full regular glass, then I'm sure he was okay. John, we will show you the clip in the commercial break, because obviously we can't show it here on YouTube or produce any of the sound on the radio here at Sauga 960 AM. So we will definitely show you that clip on the commercial break, which we will go to right now. So we're taking a commercial break. When we come back, Colin wanted to bring up a good point that I figure we should talk about in the third segment, and that's, is MJF's return all that? Colin may not think so. I'll listen more when we come back here on Newstalk Sauga 960 AM. And welcome back to Ringside Heat here on Newstalk Sauga 960 AM. I am your special guest host, Jose Taboada. You can find me on social media at Taboada93. Stepping in for the great Lex Tan, who is out sick. Get well, buddy. Or maybe not too well, because I love hosting. Joined by Colin Dodge. You can find him on social media at Risen72. And of course, you can we're also joined by John Dawson, who you can find on social media at John Dawson Music. You know what else you can find on social media? The show. Ringside _Heat on almost every social media platform out there, and of course available wherever you get your podcasts. See, guys, I got it this time. I'm a great host.
Like the fifth time you've done it. This is great.
You got it every time.
There's nobody who doesn't know how to reach out to us. It's great.
I know, but for the record, you did just wish ill will on Lex.
For
your own personal gain.
No, I would never. I would never.
And we're talking about it now, so it can't be.
I would never ever. I would never celebrate in our group chat with a celebratory gift that he can't host for the night. No, I would never do that.
Why are you smiling right now?
I am not smiling.
I stand corrected. I stand corrected.
I am concerned.
I miss
for the boss man, Lex Tan. I am concerned. So
boss man.
No, it's sure. Yeah. No.
So Lex. So my fellow Lexi, please get better, and we hope you recover as soon as you can. Drink lots of fluids.
Yes.
Are those fingers crossed? What?
No.
Yes.
So before the commercial break, we were talking about Double or Nothing, a fun little pay-per-view. And John, before we get to the discussion that we want to get into for this final segment of this hour, we showed you the clip. We showed you the Adam Copeland jump from the top of the cage. John, your initial thought after seeing that?
It's inane. It's stupid. I don't even know. There's no other word for that. The guy came down vertically, like you said. Like when you said he was almost vertical, I didn't mean like he just was standing.
No,
like he just jumped. It looked to me, if I had to hazard a guess, it's like he second guessed something once he came
something
off.
Flipped last minute. Something
like maybe Malachi was too shy, and maybe he was worried he was going to come down a weird way,
or overshoot, or
overshoot. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, like I feel like something happened there where he was just like, nope, this isn't right. This isn't right. And he was just kind of adjusting on the fly, obviously the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
But that clearly was not what was intended. I don't think there's any defense for that. That was how he was supposed to do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have broken his taboada.
Oh,
his what?
You don't want to break that. That'll take forever to hear.
His what?
He broke his taboada.
All right,
is that what it's called?
Called the. Folks, I've been alive for over 30 years. Not once I've ever used my last name to describe a medical injury, which is fractured tibia.
Everyone, hashtag right in the taboada.
Right in the taboada. He took it right in the taboada.
So
not the bread basket, the taboada.
Not the bread basket.
Two things before we go off to what. But the MJF conversation. Number one, I think, John, you're right about the overshoot. I think he was worried that when he started the elbow drop, he would have accidentally went over. And I think maybe just before the jump or midway through the jump, he just realized, oh no, I'm not gonna land. I'm gonna miss the elbow drop.
Because then you wonder if he did overshoot, he'd be dead. You know what I mean? Like he would have just. So then that becomes okay. Well, who's that on, right? Because that looks like a setup botch to me. That's the only thing I take away from that.
And I guess you can't climb all the way up there, then climb all the way down, punch, reset everybody, and then climb all the way back up again.
No,
let me move you a little bit to the center.
Mind you, they're probably. Again, I mean, how do I know? Because I'm not Adam Copeland, who's a freaking legend. But
of course,
could you have climbed halfway down and like kicked him a couple times? Like, there's ways you probably could have done that. But again. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I don't want to do this because I think Double is it Double or Nothing? What was it called?
Double or Nothing.
Yeah. Yep. So overall, it's been getting great, great traction. I think it sounds like there was some really good stuff, but
solid pay-per-view. I didn't like the last match, but a solid pay-per-view. Yeah.
But the spot was so. Again, it's spot fest stuff where it's like
unnecessary.
It's like you have to do this. So instead of adjusting and maybe I got to come down and work this a bit before I don't break my Taboada.
Gotta take care of your Taboada.
The one thing I will say is this for anybody, and I will always preach and fight this for anybody that says wrestling is fake. Why do you watch it? That is another example in this industry on how the smallest landings from any height or regardless can lead to a very, very serious matter. Adam Copeland is out for the next 4 to 6 months. And of course, you have to potentially incorporate ring recovery, kind of like freshen up a little bit. So it could be a little bit longer than that. So of course, we do wish that Adam Copeland has a very speedy recovery. But again, again, another example of the dangers that is professional wrestling and can't really be faked at the end of the day. We are running out of time. Colin, before we go, I know this is a massive discussion, but I want to see if we can quickly get this in. You spoke to us off camera saying that you don't think that MJF's return this past Sunday at Double or Nothing is what is made out to be. So the floor is yours as we close out the episode. What do you got?
The return at the pay-per-view was fantastic. The Triple H Easter egg was amazing. I loved every single second of the return. Adam Cole shows up, MJF puts him out, dusts his hands, Adam Cole's gone. It was great. I don't understand how MJF was not at Dynamite this week. That's my problem. The return was great. It's a new MJF. He's not going anywhere. He's AEW loyal, perhaps like Undertaker is WWE loyal. And if that's great, why not? It's perfect. AEW sorely needs him, so I'm glad he's not going anywhere. So that's fantastic. Yes, he's advertised for next week Dynamite. I don't know. Again, it comes down to booking, like match order. How you don't follow him up, that would have been an easy ratings grab that AEW also needs. And there's a lot of new stuff happening, a lot of character changes and all that kind of thing, and it's all very exciting. Lots of stuff look promising. Swerve is already looking better. I'm still concerned, but he's looking better. But not having MJF on this week, I think was a mistake. But I'm also not a promoter, so maybe in the long run it'll work out. I think it was a bad idea.
What the lesson is today, kids. The lesson today, and I'm reaching out to the kids here. For example, like if you have kids that are 12 and 9, as an example, you can easily say this. If you ever want to be loyal, show loyalty to somebody or to something, get a tattoo. Get an AEW tattoo. MJF has that now ankle AEW tattoo. So kids, ask your parents, hey, if you want to show that you're loyal to the Blue Jays, if you want to show you're loyal to WWE, get a tattoo. Just forget about the minimum age of 18 and just go for it.
Get a sweet X-Men 97 tattoo.
There you go.
That cartoon's amazing.
I think MJF is going to regret that.
We'll see, but it is a nice tattoo. But yes, if he does ever jump ship, boy, is that going to be a conversation. And then so,
or if he has no choice but to jump ship.
Also,
tattoos can be covered up. It's fine. One guy we like had Sarah across his neck once, so it's fine.
Well, I guess if John keeps this up, he's gonna have a tattoo that says Taboada with the
right in the
how-
Taboada. Yeah.
So
Right in the Taboada.
that'll do it for us here.
Taboada on my tibia.
Protect the Taboada, kids, and get a tattoo.
Oh Lord.
On your
Well,
tibia.
folks,
That's your
that'll-
tattoo, right in the Taboada. Yeah.
That will do it for us here on Ringside. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Of course, also another fun episode. Follow John Dawson on social media at John Dawson Music. Follow our great friend Colin Dodge, our charity streamer at Risen72, and of course, follow me at Taboada93, not Tibia 93, at Taboada93. I am Jose Taboada. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you all next week. And of course, this was Ringside Heat, who you can find at Ringside_Heat across all socials and wherever you get your podcasts. We are Ringside Heat. We remember the things that you want to forget. Good night, everybody.
Right in the Taboada.